Present with Ms. Ossendorf arriving here shortly, along with Superintendent Wagner. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. We have finance update. Ms. Ryder, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. So for the public, I'm Lisa Ryder, Director of Finance and Operations. And tonight we want to touch base a little on the finances. It's been a few months since we've had an update on these. And so we're kind of going to begin our conversation regarding the past fiscal year, 2022 through 2023, ending June 30th. And so we are at a point now where our numbers are very close to being final for the fiscal year's audit for that fiscal year. And I wanted to bring you up to speed on exactly what those are looking like at this juncture. So every time we take a look at things, I heard last time we met that when we talk budget, you appreciate kind of understanding the percentage of revenue budget received or the amount of expenditure budget that's been spent. And so this is laid out in that format in a narrative form. And I have a different example for the next conversation when we talk about the current finances. I am looking for feedback as to which you prefer so I can know going forward. But let's talk about general fund. Of the revenue budget that we had for the fiscal year 23, 97.35% has been received. And for the expenditures, 98.99% has been expended. So because that percentage of expenditure is higher on the expense side than the revenue side, you can expect that that means we've spent more than what we have for revenues. And so at this point, the projected decline in general fund balance is $1,055,100. I know that when we did the revised budget for last fiscal year, there was an anticipated spend down of fund balance, so that doesn't surprise us. Maybe the dollar amount, though, is a bit higher than what we had anticipated at that time. When we talk audit, which will be coming up here in December, we will be sure to give you far more details as to the why and the wherefores behind that number. The food service fund has received 96.58% of its revenue that was budgeted for fiscal year 23. And on the expense side, 92.44% of the expense budget has been expended. In this case, the projected decline for the food service fund balance is small, about $4,000, $139. And that is a slight decline. You can see that we didn't quite use all the fund balance or all the budget that we had anticipated. And so, but it was pretty close. When you take a look at the community education fund, in this case, we did exceed our revenue budget and we exceeded our expenditure budget. That's not uncommon when you're talking about community education because it's really based upon programs that are being served and run. And so oftentimes, if your revenue is exceeding, your expenditures can oftentimes be exceeding as well. The key for us is what does that look like in the end? Because there is a greater amount of revenue received, 109% of the budget, and only almost 3% of the expenditure budget, we are looking at an increase to the fund balance for community education by about $26,497 at this time for last fiscal year. We do have a few final journal entries that we're completing this week, and the drafts have already been started on the audit report, so those are in the works. So the next part of this recommendation, or I should say report, is the current year. And I laid it out a little differently, more in a table format. So I'm kind of curious what you prefer. Like I said, same information essentially, just not as much narrative there. So as we take a look at this, same three funds we're talking about, these are what we call our operating funds, the funds that are used on a day-to-day basis. The general revenues, you can see September 30th compared to September 30th a year ago, and what those look like as far as the amount of dollars actually at each time period, but also then the percent of the budget that has been established and where we're at in that. And you can see how that compares. So for instance, on the general fund revenues, At this point in time, we're around 12% having been received, and we were at 13% a year prior. On the expenditure budgets, you can see that we're at about 16.2% expended of the budget, and a year ago that was 17.02. So kind of staying in sync with what we've seen in the past as far as those the pace at which the revenues and expenditures are coming in and expenditures going out. Food service revenues, we're looking at about 2.59 having been received thus far. That's a little lower than what you saw on the prior year, likely due to just the timing of getting some things in. We've had a very, very busy fall for food and nutrition, and the fact that there's just been a lot of staff shortages and just needing to really kind of help out in the kitchens far more than doing some of the other things that are typically done by our director. So this is probably some of the reason too, is just getting that all caught back up, which we have a plan and it's in process now. For the expenditures, you can see that we are at about 10.87% expended of our budget, whereas a year ago that was 12.29%. Community education revenues. That's looking very close to what you saw from a year ago compared to the current year. Around here, we're at about 25% for both revenues and expenditures on the community ed side. And a year ago, that was around 21 for revenues and 26% for the expenditure side. So really running at the same similar type piece, nothing too concerning in those areas. I'll pause for a moment and see if there's any comments.
Any questions on the financial reports that she has presented this evening?
Or feedback?
I'm just kind of surprised that it's $1 million decline in our fund balance. I don't recall having that big of a conversation about that.
It looked as though it was about
Probably before you came.
50, yeah.
And I remember that we were just waiting on, I recall we were waiting on the timing of the revenue coming in. I think that was a previous person that was sharing that with us, and that was probably the case. But $1 million is a lot of money to go into reserve for. So, is there any chance that more of that revenue will still come in for the last fiscal year, or is it all pretty much being November? We're past it.
We've pretty much accounted for all the receivables and the largest ones. Sometimes what you'll see happening is the stray tuition bills that will come through both ways, from schools, because all of us are working on our audits, but there might be a different pace for some of those. But we've compared to the prior years, and the large ones are in, and so we feel as though those have been accomplished. And so I think we're looking at a couple of well, we know that we were planning on spending down some of our overspending our compensatory funds, right? And so I know in the revised budget presentation that was provided, that looked to be where that big amount was. So I think that still held true, because I did have to make that type of an adjustment as well at year end. But it's the question of where did the rest of that, come to fruition here, where we have that. And it could be a combination both of the revenues and the expenditure side. So I want to get that breakdown for you. I just don't have that in final form for you. We will for the audit.
And then one more question, due to the fact that now the food is paid by the state for the breakfast and lunch program, will we see probably even more lag of timing, you think, for receivables?
Yes, and
next year?
We're wondering how much, not only the lag of time, but also potentially the amount of reimbursement we will see. When we're not running the summer meals program, which is federally funded, that's reimbursed at a much higher rate than the state meals will be. And so that is our biggest concern or question around food and nutrition this year, is just to see how that all kind of pans out, because we know that's a reality for us. We have the rates. Our participation is up, but when you have participation up, you also have greater costs for food to make sure you have enough for everyone. And at the same time, we also are experiencing significant increases in food cost, as everybody knows, right? So So it's really about kind of watching that. I think when we do our mid-year budget revision, we'll be taking a really close look at that and trying to kind of compare those revenues that we've received now based on the number of meals served compared to the expenditures that we've seen in those same similar months, and seeing how that compares. Right now, I'd have to say that these reports may reflect a timing difference because not everything is necessarily in, but when we do our revised budget, we'll be kind of evening that all out to making sure that we're comparing apples to apples.
Any other questions?
Can we go back to
Yes.
that, the $1 million in the general fund? I'm losing it a little bit here. I know that we had, as a board, approved digging into the general, or the fund balance. And I think it was in regards to substitutes and permanent substitutes, but that was a one-time,
$200,000.
yeah, like a 200 or 250. So,
A portion of the lights too, right?
well, but that was a bond.
I thought we dipped into the fund, general fund for that a little bit, for the part that they wouldn't cover, like the tuning for
I think you're
the
right.
special education rooms.
Because we would over time recoup that expense.
There was cost for redoing the bond because we changed the bond from a lesser
Yeah,
term.
so that could account for some of that $1 million, but and then if there's a leg, then I think that would make sense, but I don't recall the dollar amounts of those items. Other than the subs where it was around 200 or 250, 280, somewhere in there.
I want to say the lights were under 100, but I don't know
Yeah.
for sure. Feel like it was.
Are you talking the current building size?
It would have been last school year.
And the new lights we put in, we changed the bonding on that. They wanted to go a longer term and we shortened it. So we got better rate, and we put some money towards that, you're right, we did. Yeah, I think you mentioned that as well.
That's very helpful to me. I will dig into those points then and be able to give you better information.
Still, it's probably 500 some thousand, it's still.
Great.
Yeah, when you see $1 million out of, out of the fund balance, you know that, what does that put us at? Do you know what the percentage is still? in the fund balance?
So the percentage that you're accustomed to hearing is the unassigned fund balance, and I'm at that point of breaking down the total fund balance now into the restricted and such, and these final entries for the auditor will get us there. So I don't want to, I'm anticipating it's going to be somewhere around that 12%, but it's not final.
Cross our fingers, toes and eyes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
We'd like to keep that around there, right? Thank you.
Any other questions on the financials? Yes.
I do like the charts.
I do too. How does the fire at Sunnyside fit into all of this?
At this point, our product has been covered by insurance that we had to replace. When it comes to the freezer itself, we're awaiting quotes to identify exactly what we're going to do, whether it's going to be a repair. The challenge is the door itself, and the whole freezer itself is 1989. So from there, we have to make a decision once we have those quotes in front of us and understand what our options are. In the meantime, we are serving meals there. We have acquired a smaller size freezer that can be moved. And so it's being utilized currently. It holds about a week's worth of food. And then after it's no longer needed there at Sunnyside, we'll be utilizing it at another location then. So it's nice that we were able to make a purchase of something, but know that we have a purpose for it once it's not needed there. So that's, we're in a holding pattern waiting for those quotes.
Very good. Now go on to was it ADM then next?
Sure. So the enrollment update. So what you have attached in your packet is a chart. That's not all of the chart that you are accustomed to seeing. It is the September enrollment, your October enrollment, so 2 months worth. We do have included then the ALC numbers as well. And then you see in the green where we have the projected ADMs of what we had in our budget for the adopted budget. Right above that green row is the average total. So this is taking the totals of September and October and averaging them. And you can then see that those totals comparing one to the other, we're looking at 2,343.5 compared to 2,459.1. So we are showing the fact that we are a bit low compared to what we had budgeted. And I wondered about that. So then I ran the information you see at the very bottom, which is the yellow area. And so what we're looking at here is like in 10-1 of 22, the numbers were, as you see on the first row, that total 2,294. End of year, those numbers were 2,415.95. And so we have this thing we call end of year compared to fall ratio. And when it's over the 100%, which happens around, well, from, I don't know, all but 1, 2, 3, 4, all but 5 of these grade level boxes are over 100%, that tells you that you are actually gaining enrollment by the time you get to the end of the year compared to what you had at the beginning of the year. And so if that serves us in the capacity that we gain back some of these kids by the end of the year, that's what we're going to be watching for. That's what we're going to want to see. I will do more in-depth analysis of this as well as I put to bed the audit and kind of move forward on this then. But this is something just to give you a sense of where we're at, so you can see and where the numbers are fluctuating for what grade levels and such. Okay.
Okay, any questions on that? Yes.
How much is the ADM per student right now? Is it
7,283, I want to say, but that's a rough number,
7,383?
something like that.
So with the 4%?
Yes. That's off my memory, so that's dangerous there.
We always use the $10,000 figure.
See, and that number includes like not just the gen ed formula, but a few of the other aids and such. And that oftentimes is a really good number to utilize, is just over that 10 grand number, because that's truly what there's other aids that come into the mix besides the gen ed formula.
Thank you for that information.
Yeah.
Good to know. Any questions on that? Anything more?
Just the COVID relief funds, just an FYI for you, they have a new, what they're calling MEGS system. So it's the Minnesota grants system. Minnesota Educational Grant System, that's what it is. And that is just getting kicked off by MDE, and that means we have to move all of our federal funds that were in the SERVS program now into the new MEGS system. And so in order to do that, we have to finalize everything. And so we will be doing that finalization and giving you a report once we get it all moved over to MEGS, so you can see those final numbers and what's been rolled forward and where we're at then from that point forward. And that concludes the financial report.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Inflection update. Superintendent Wagner.
I want to actually share a slide deck just so you have a visual. So I shared a portion of this last year, just to kind of update. I think the one pager was updated in highlighted yellow where we're at. So we're in the second year working with Inflection. So last year they were working along their continuum for organizations to build impact. And as you recall, we spent a lot of time just setting our anchors really ultimately to work through the Future Ready protocol. So all of you, Teresa is actually part of this twice. Can you see? Where we worked through the Think, Act, Know, and Go. And so last year we surveyed all staff, and that I'm going to give credits to building leaders and program leaders for facilitating discussions with their staff. We worked with preschool students, we worked with our families and our community members and partners, just to get a little bit better idea of what next generation revenue should look like. So we essentially created our identity in the first year or so. Of the survey, we did get about 2,000 responses. And so this was kind of the anchor planning for strategic planning for the Inflection protocol. From there, we did get our maxim, which also includes just kind of our subscript, which is discovering our strengths, honoring our stories, and building the future for everyone. You'll start to see that kind of group out into our new website and our language that we're using specifically at the World Cafe as it comes up in November. So I'll talk about that in just a moment. But In terms of how we worked with Inflection last year, we hit all of the marks and all the targets to get our shared identity and shared purpose. This is actually a new image, probably for the public. I know board members have seen it in the Wet and Friday updates, but we will be working on our profile of the learner for Red Wing, and working with, again, the same subgroups of participants, students, teachers, community members, leaders, community partners, to actually look at that outer circle. So you'll see that there are 9 supportive attributes for each of the Maxim language, the Creative Creatives United. We're actually going to reduce that down or try to combine a few into 6, because the 6 will actually drive our strategic planning. And so if you've been part of strategic planning in the past, Inflection does a much more comprehensive deep dive into what do we want our learners to look like, what do we want the environment to look like of our learners, and what is our academic, social, emotional, and community partnerships look like as well. So you'll start seeing this image start coming out and being anchored to the conversations that we start having about strategic planning. Part 2 with Inflection is really looking at where are we at currently. So what are the practices that have already been in place? What do we want to optimize in terms of our progression for our strategic plan? If you recall, have any of you looked at the strategic plan, the current strategic plan? So if you recall, it's kind of a long list of tasks with people assigned to different tasks, so it's not really linear where you're actually working towards a shared vision for readiness. So what Inflection hopes to charge us to do is really look at the purple. You see the second set of component pieces, for example, quality hiring practices, looking at our shared mental models, our school performance framework, relationships with structures. All of those pieces are going to be fleshed out in our next strategic plan. Of course, we are going to be looking at the component pieces that are in the dark blue there. We're thinking about student empowerment, the universal practices, the student voice, all of those will be moved in, but for strategic planning specifically this next year, which will be a lot of heavy lifting on this group, to identify what are those pieces that we want to elevate to the top for year 1, year 2, year 3, 4, and 5. We're doing some of these things already, but it's a matter of prioritizing them within the strategic plan and making sure that we have checkpoints and progress for measure. I highlighted a few things that, as I worked with Matt Coleman and Ken Partial from Inflection, things that we're kind of already doing in WED. So today we're going to be talking about superintendent goals, hopefully board goals as well. We'll look at previous superintendent goals and align them to the goals that we want as a board. We'll start looking at previous strategic plans, but also to just kind of as a launching point to optimize our future strategic plan. We'll look at our reporting, our academics, how we're achieving. As you know, this year we've taken a really deep dive in our hiring practices and our protocols, including the questions that we ask at exit interviews when the staff want to leave. We're also looking at our onboarding and ensuring that onboarding is seamless, it's strategic, it's purposeful, and our members feel supported. This year, we also looked at our evaluation tools. All of these things are we started. We had the introductory pieces with, but I think we need to do a deeper dive and make them a little bit more anchored and a little bit more strategic and measure what we want them to measure in terms of output and product. Professional learning plans are in place, our school performance and framework and improvement plans, specifically our vision cards. I believe have been, today was the due date, so I have to double check all the principals turned this in. Patrick did his, so he's good. We're looking at that a little bit differently. Improvement planning isn't a hard set goal for our principals, rather it's a continuum. So how are we moving along the continuum for that? So in terms of working with Inflection this year, they are helping us at the cabinet level when we look at what are all these pieces that are existing, our current state, so that we can move forward with updating our strategic plan. And then some other pieces here that Inflection will be working with us on are all of the interview processes, decision-making, continuous improvement of relationship structures, all of the elements that I said were the dark blue, to make sure that we are kind of moving them and they are parallel to the brick and mortar pieces that traditionally are seen in the strategic plan. So I know this is riveting for all of you. I especially love strategic planning, but it's a lot of hard work and a lot of heavy lifting. Last but not least, we will, as a board, go into strategic direction development. That will mean that we are rewriting our vision and mission or finessing the one that we have. It doesn't have to be completely different, but we'll massage it for the next 5 years. And then last but not least, the strategic direction that is anchored in Inflection philosophy is that it's very collaborative, so obviously we're pulling in various partnership groups, students, teachers, leaders, our board, community members to give input. The district itself, and I'll talk a little bit about the World Cafe in just a moment, will actually be identifying those key areas of themes that are emerging from what our community members and other partners are looking for. So it's gonna plug a little bit of a piece that I'll talk about in my administrative update, but our first World Cafe is November 30th. I hope all of you can be there. We will put a quorum statement out if we all can be there. But essentially, it's about 15 minutes of an introduction on how to do the process. It's a rotation around 3 key questions that will drive our strategic planning. So it's one of 2 that we will have this year. We have another one in February. There will be food, like refreshments, you know, we can be happy with that, and bringing food and beverages. We will have table hosts that will be trained to collect feedback. I know Anna has been part of a World Cafe, but essentially it's a question, about 15 minutes on a question, collect, and then rotate to a different group, a second question that goes a little bit deeper, and then a third question that really looks, is more formal thinking, so really want to have the right people at the table. So the more you can tap shoulders in the community to have participants attend, doesn't matter who you are, you're a community member, a current parent, parent of a previous student, anybody who just wants to get input on the schools of the importance of them. So that's it in a nutshell. We have a lot of work to do starting essentially this month to get this work going so that we're prepared to plan and going for the 23-24 school year. 24-25 school year. So that was a lot. Any questions?
So the 20th is the 3rd Monday.
You told me about the 30th.
November 30th.
Oh, yeah,
David,
I was just
let me
gonna
fix
ask.
that.
Oh, okay. Now we have
It's
one,
November
two.
30th.
It's November 30th.
Okay.
Sorry about that. November 30th, 5:30 to 7, Berlin High School cafeteria. We did put it in the e-news. We're gonna be doing a Republican Eagle article, just to invite as many people. We're hoping the cafeteria is filled. I anticipate the February one will be a little bit more attended because people aren't aware of what our World Cafe is, and we really haven't had a global community event like this at the school since COVID. I believe, so I think this will be pretty.
Okay. Questions? Okay. Anything else on that inflection? Superintendent Wagner? No? All right, we'll go on to Jefferson Building. You got that?
So the one thing that we talked about at agenda meeting was just having a dialogue about the use of Jefferson Building. And really the only thing that I had that was shared with me was actually the timeline of building use. And since we've had some board members, new board members join us, this was just an open dialogue about visioning or vision planning for Jefferson. We've tabled it a couple of times, and so this is just more open dialogue on the use of the ideas or the wonders about the building itself, and what are the possibilities. Last year I was able to tour Jefferson. It is not completely up to compliance. ADA, for example, the cafeterias, likely tough to maneuver with our current nutrition services staff, and there is an elevator. Other than that, it's pretty structurally sound. It will just need probably some facelifting. I know it was used during COVID, so there's some workarounds for some of those ADA pieces, but I think our meeting, we want to just have an open dialogue what you're thinking with the use of the building, or if you have any ideas.
We had a meeting December of 2021 at Jefferson. There was some interest in the community, to make it a community center. And that, nothing really got any footing on that. So that's the last conversation we've had about it since then, so.
Do we know what it's costing us monthly, yearly to have that building on our books?
Last I knew it was about 70 to 75,000 a year, 50 to 75,000 a year. That the number you guys remember? That's called heating, electricity, mowing, snow plowing, any repairs. I think the budget had, the last time, a couple of years ago.
Is that something we've looked at, like renting out again to some other entity?
Sold it twice.
I think in order to rent it out, we'd have to make it AD compliant.
Yeah.
So, and we know the last time we had that looked at, as I recall, it was $250,000 just to get to add an elevator.
You could possibly rent the first floor and not, that would be relatively easy to make accessible or like all stuff. But I think that $75,000 to $90,000 amount is keeping it like just warm enough so the pipes don't freeze. And it's not like any maintenance or anything like that, so then the cost would go up. I mean, I think, yeah, we probably could rent portions of it out but if we did, it wouldn't be just that 90,000. Potentially.
Didn't Brittany Keel mention that if they had more space at Caldwell, they could do wraparound services, they could have more classes because they have more, more interest in space. So I think it would be prudent to look at what our needs are in the next 5 years, because I'm sure it would be cheaper to update Jefferson than to build a whole new building, or what would, adding on cobbles make that space. So.
I think Cobbles on the landmark, so that would.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if the district uses all of the space in Cobble. Like I know for a while, part of it was leased out to like the WIC program or, other sort of like complementary services, but I don't know at this point, like if we're utilizing the entire.
I asked that question specifically at that administrative event or whatever we had here with, and Brittany pretty much, if I remember right, confirmed that like every space was being used and that WIC is no longer there.
They moved.
So, yeah, I was aware too that those entities had rented space, but that there was one thing still there.
Head Start.
Head Start.
Okay. But that sounded like they wanted to keep that there because there was.
Complimentary.
Yeah.
Because it sounded also like they increased like offerings too, like for a number of students admitted into preschooling programs, so that was part of it.
I can double check on that, but if they do offer any spaces like a hotel space, I do think Britain's at capacity.
Do we know about the Jefferson gym? Is that a usable gym space? Since I know we're always hard pressed to find gym space in this community and that gets rented out.
I don't,
No,
is it the cafeteria space?
the issue with the basement of Jefferson, if I'm remembering correctly, is the hallway is not wide enough for the stairs. So the stair hallway that leads to the gym, because in the basement is too narrow for compliance right now. So that is not a wide enough stairwell.
The gym itself is technically usable, but getting to it.
Getting to it is not compliant.
Just a little historical perspective, which is ironic when we're talking about ADA compliance. Back in the 90s, when they made the building climate controlled, we were also supposed to get an elevator, so it was ADA compliant. And we came back in the fall, and there was no elevator, and that was scheduled for phase 2. And probably 20 years ago, I think, and how much cheaper it would have been if we just would have put that elevator in 20 years ago.
We did do
Whenever that was.
some costing, and I'd have to talk to Alan about an elevator that would be adjacent to the building on the outside.
Yep.
Last year, there was some other kind of workaround that wouldn't actually work for specific needs of
Right.
students. So I mean, the singleton, but some students are wheelchair bound, so you can't physically move them into kind of go on. So we did do a walkthrough and checked out the space. So have you been in? No. So you
I went to
have
school there.
We what?
you seen it recently though?
Well, when we did, we had some, the school district had some, work groups there that I was part of, so.
Okay. So recent enough.
Yeah. But so are you, I guess so like the basketball team who probably doesn't need wheelchair accessibility, can they still not use that gym? Because it's not ADA compliant? I guess that's my question. If you don't need an elevator or compliance because you haven't, you don't need accommodations for somebody on the team, would that still be a
I'm not sure if
possibility
it
to
is the
use?
potential of the need that makes it a compliant
Right.
space.
It has been used by community groups, like
Phoenix Theater.
the Phoenix Theater used it for rehearsals and summer musical.
I think the high school used it once upon a time with hers there too.
But it's not very, like, it's the size, it's a basketball court, but there's like this much room
Right.
around the perimeter of it. So for practice, it might work, but it would not be functional to have like anything you would want to invite the public to. Both for accessibility and just the logistics of the amount of space that's there.
You'd have to also block off other parts of the school so that people don't, I interrupt you?
No. One of the things we had talked about before is waiting until our work with Inflection had started and continued, and because I think at that time we had talked about how with that strategic planning, perhaps we would have more information about the direction of the district in terms of building and grade levels and things like that. Do you see that kind of planning still happening with the?
I don't think they were ever designed to do that. I think that may have been, like within all of those elements, they would facilitate conversations. Ultimately, the control, the locus of control is still with us and the needs. But the conversations about prioritizing building needs or space issues would just be a facilitated conversation as elevating to what degree is that something that we want to address.
Well, one of the things that we've talked about as being a priority, but I don't think it's really stated as a priority anywhere, is having fifth grade be back in elementary and having middle school be 6, 7, 8. But that is a space issue. But then we have preschool at Sunnyside this year. I know Sunnyside's not big enough to have it wasn't big enough to have all of second grade anyway. But, it's just like, I feel like having the conversation about Jefferson is, I don't know what the word is. It's more complicated when you need to look at all these other things, right? Like, if we're talking about like adding on to Cobble or adding on to Burnside or whatever, like, we have a building that has space in it. And can we reconfigure this building, right? Like we talk about there not being a lot of space here, but we also have the district offices here and we have community ed offices here. And I think there's a lot of benefit to having them here, but I think that it's almost like we need to sit down with like, what are all of the needs and what are all of the spaces and where does it make sense to divide those up? And then see where Jefferson shakes out in the mix of that. Otherwise, I think just discussing Jefferson on its own merits is kind of short-sighted.
I agree with that.
I agree
I was
as
gonna
well.
say that.
We could do a data dig too, to just see, projections, we can do some enrollment projections. I know that's always kind of on our radar with our enrollment. I think a kindergarten center with a early childhood program would be ideal, that would shift a little bit, it would give you the opportunity to have a true middle school and a true high school. Those are some ideas, more intermediate level schools, we would think about transition. But to your point, if we don't have the data to know what that looks like and feels like, we know what we're bursting at the seams right now, or what's the trend analysis for that?
And then to have some of those goals stated, like, is that our district goal, to have a middle school that's 6, 7, 8, and have fifth grade be back in elementary? I think we talked about it a lot, and I feel like there was consensus that was the goal, but I don't think that it's really stated anywhere, so if it's just a goal, you were like, well, that'd be nice, but it's not actually like part of the plan, then it's not gonna happen.
I think we as a board also talk to the community about looking at a study for all the buildings to see what we want to do. So that makes ample sense to not just look at one building, look at them all, how we want to move forward. I don't think we do grade centers anymore, but maybe we look at,
Neighborhood schools.
if something's too big, have too many kids here, how do we move around in order to do it?
I was just gonna say that, you know, the community, when we opened Jefferson for COVID, the community is very loud about, in support of having that building open. Everybody loves having that building open. The neighborhood loved having things going on. And of course, busing is an issue with being in the neighborhood, but, you know, I think, even the teachers loved working back in that building. The kids loved going there. I mean, there wasn't a negative about using it other than the cost of making it ADA compliant. So, you know, do we also know where legislature is at with 4K? You know, part of my concern in the back of my mind is getting rid of a building and then, you know, the state comes back in 2 years and says, we're gonna make you do it now. So, you know, it hurts my heart to think about what we might have to jump through in the future, especially if we get rid of that building too. So it's hard to think about spending $50,000 to $70,000 mothballing a building, and it'd be really great if we could stop doing that one way or another. Like, we either sell it or we use it instead of throwing money out the door. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Jefferson's cost for last year, school year 23 was $36,000.
Oh, that's better, but still.
So,
The other thing is just not EDA, it's, as Osborne talked about, you know, the heating. You have minimum heat now, you're gonna go up, the lights will be on, you have to have somebody to oversee the building, secretary support, custodial support, some food people there, so those costs will be on top of that, so you can't just look at what we have to do to upgrade the building, you're gonna do also what's gonna keep the building going.
The cafeteria is absolutely not in working order, so.
Well, somebody has to serve the food.
No, yeah.
I think that gets
outsourced and
brought
brought in.
Yeah, it doesn't really exist anymore.
yeah,
They had brought in like a refrigerator and some things into what I think was maybe like a lounge or a classroom space. Like when it was being used during COVID, it was on the main floor
oh,
instead of being down. Like nobody used the cafeteria on the basement level during COVID.
they did when I was teaching there, we had a working cafeteria where they cooked food.
Yeah, that's, I think all of the
I went there.
I do like your comment though, Anna, about just like putting together, like sitting down and putting together a plan, like as to what our goals are for the district, you know, instead of, like you said, just kind of bringing up the grade center or where we want, and there's really no plan for that to move anywhere. I think that is important, and it'll help bring the building planning together better.
So it's, you know, what is possible.
Yeah. I do think though that what you said, Jennifer, was spot on. Like, we were hoping that the educational planner was going to help address some of those building configuration issues around programming as well. So, you know, maybe they can still add on a little bit of work for us in that realm, or we bring it back to your leadership team to start looking at.
We could do a building study, it's just a matter of who do we want to do that to. So that might be something you can talk about on the agenda. I'm just looking at how Inflection actually has designed their strategic planning, and that was never, I wasn't part of that vetting, so I'm not sure if that was just part of the conversation.
I think it felt like once we knew the direction of the district, then it made more sense to us to look at, based on what our plan was for the future, we could then look at the buildings and the grade configuration, because we had a plan working up to that.
Well, I didn't know Jefferson School would be such a big topic, but it is. And, great discussion, really is, and I think it falls back then on the admin team or somebody there to figure out, take this information to see what we're talking about is even feasible to do. But we need to do, somebody had said we need to do something with it, I think it was Ms. Rowe, and she's correct, we gotta figure out something to do with it, because when 10 years go by, you gotta, could have $500,000 in the building just sitting there, so we don't wanna do that either, but if we need the space, still have Caldwell in one, if you move one around and all that, so. It's a big discussion, but a needed discussion
Yeah,
too.
but Congo is ADA compliant,
It is.
so that makes it easier if we don't, to sell or to rent or whatever, because it's already up to code.
But, I think as a member here, I don't know how many classrooms are in Patrick's building or the high school or Sunnyside or Burnside. I don't know how many classrooms are there. I'm sure there's a number of them, and so to do that, looking at what we have to see what our needs are. So,
We did look at that a little bit with Burnside and Sunnyside when we were having a conversation about whether we would do grade level centers or have each of them be K4. But it was kind of a last minute aspect.
Right.
Because it's also like you could say there's 10 classrooms, but are the 10 classrooms like itty bitty for itty bitty bodies? Or are those 10 classrooms, huge? In order to compare apples to apples, there needs to be a lot more information involved.
Fifth graders take up more space than kindergarten.
Yeah, exactly. But I think Mike Pagel got together quite a bit of information too about what the sizes in the classrooms and things like that.
And I think with your student to teacher ratio and kind of our counts on that too, to try to stay close to those considerations.
Because it ultimately comes down to bodies and spaces for the bodies and where those spaces are,
And money to do it.
and the money to do it.
Well, we have outside agencies coming in to write in
Right.
services too that have needed space, and either at the hotel or we've had to rent out or rent a fee. So I mean, it's, as we start thinking about community schools around here, there's more entities asking for space.
Right, and I think, as, a teacher thing, but it is wonderful that we have the mental health supports in schools that we have right now. And we've made space for those people to come in, and that helps the whole shift. Every child, it does make a difference for every child, even when you're not getting those services, because that mental health piece, mentally healthy kids are ready to learn. And if everyone's ready to learn, that benefits everyone who's trying to learn. So,
Okay. Well, we kind of gave some direction. It was a good brainstorming session here. Very good topic, very good ideas from the topic came up, so. Other topics, we have, let's go 5 more minutes, anything. What do you all think about, we have a personnel committee that meets, during the agenda meeting. Is there a need for us to maybe once a month, during like finance, talk about personnel in the workshop space instead of just that? I think that's probably what the idea of the workshop is. So we can talk about that tomorrow more as a group to see when that is, that we can go forward. I think the whole board needs to be involved in the personnel discussion on things. So, yes.
I really appreciate that, Jim, because that's one thing I've been thinking about. I like that there's a personnel committee where you guys get some of the information, but I feel like there is that missing step, so that we know more about what's going on. That was one thing when we had our committees before, the committee would then come and report to the full board so that we would get the information. That feels like an important step. On those lines, Rachel and I had a small discussion today about finance and the idea that as this board and some of the new members, we haven't really had a large workshop on finance in a while. And we were just wondering if that would be something to add two to the workshop agenda soon, just more in-depth look at our school finances, and, you know, how we budget. I think some of the mandates, the unfunded mandates, unless we looked at it individually, it would be nice to be able to lay it out and see what are we looking at as a board coming up here, in the next budgeting cycle. And then also in the future, do we want to talk in January again about how this workshop is going and whether we would prefer to go back to committees and just to look at that again.
Sure, and you and I must be on drink the same milk today or something.
Me too, I was thinking the same exact thing.
I'm gonna bring at the next board meeting, implementing a finance committee again with a couple board members on it, to meet during the day with the finance person, not weekly, not once a month, once a quarter, whatever, on things coming forward. But the other part about budgeting and mandates, that's a whole board discussion. So I agree with that, so I'm gonna bring that up at there. I've already talked to Ms. Ryder, Superintendent Whitener, the treasurer, about it, so. And,
I can send you some reading about unfunded mandates. I'd be happy to add that to the library.
Well, and I just want to put in a plug, so we're talking about all of these things. I finished this book. It was really good, and I think, what I think is interesting is that the principles here speak to some things that we all care about, like what's good for all kids, and thinking about the system, and not to be a spoiler and tell you the ending, but the core governance role has evolved from protecting local democracy to becoming a vital force for changing the system itself. And our system needs to change to meet the evolving needs and cultures of the kids who are coming to our schools. And so, anyway, I think they talk about common values, which I think everybody sitting at this table, if you look at what we are doing in our jobs now or what we did in our previous working lives, every person sitting at this table is involved or was involved in a career where you cared for people. And that, building on that, and then looking at the big picture, because I need a lot of help getting out of my employee role and into my board role, and this was very helpful to me. So
we'll get you there. I will have to say, thank you for the accolades on that, but it wasn't my idea, it was brought up by board members. So-
Yeah.
So
And
just
also,
give,
you know
well,
what?
kudos are due, so. I figured I'd bring it up, so I was trying to steal your thunder, but I couldn't.
Can I just ask a quick question about,
I don't know, 5 minutes are up, we're gonna break here.
just really quick.
That's it.
Like a personnel meeting though, or can you have that at a board meeting, like, isn't that more confidential? Like not,
Not that, some of the confidential stuff wouldn't be brought up here, it would have to be discussed probably at the agenda committee, but most of it is, we're gonna hire this person or that person or this or that.
but we don't
Otherwise,
have
it
a
makes
true
the-
personnel committee right now.
We have the personnel committee, but anything goes to the consent agenda, that we could be open and discussed in the open meeting.
Previously, when I was on the personnel committee and it was talking about, different roles, positions that might be added to the district or to buildings and the purpose of them, or, whether someone was going to be moved from one position to another, things like that. So it wasn't, could be public information as long as we weren't talking about individual people, it was the position.
I do feel like we've missed the boat a lot, since we've gone from our committees to the workshop. Especially, I think the biggest issue that I feel that's missing is the personnel piece. even though we try and talk about personnel during agenda, it ends up being a quick little thing, you know, I feel like, you know, like any MOUs, anybody that was, had a discrepancy with their, contracts, any contract disputes would come to the personnel committee. Any job description changes or additions would come, and then that personnel committee would come to the full board, present that, and we would vote on it as a full board. And I feel like we're missing that stuff completely. To no fault of our own, I think, you know, our agreement was to try this workshop. It's suited our purposes for many things, but I think that before our next organizational meeting, we really should have a strong discussion on how we feel this format is going. Nobody's changing, we're all the same people moving into our new structural, meeting at the beginning of January. So I think, you know, if we have some time in December to have a lengthier discussion about how it's going, how we, you know, how we liked it, pros and cons, and what we feel we want to do moving forward in the new year.
How long have you been since you've been there? Like a
Couple years.
true- okay, so like-
You were on it, so it has to be a good
It's been 2 years.
2 years or so.
Since we've gone to this new format, no more
I
committees.
think all of the last calendar year was
Because
workshop.
I don't ever recall
That was before
other.
you came in. The other, then that brings up what the show covers talks about, you know, some confidentiality stuff. Do we want to videotape or record the workshops? You know, if we're getting into personnel stuff, we may just not. Just hold the meeting here. We can record it, but not broadcast it out. Or not record it. So
Well,
that's something to think
it
about.
may be the structure, depending on how we decide on what committees will revive or not revive, maybe that'll change how the workshops look
Right.
too, so it can all.
Well, the reason I bring it up is with the committees we had, we didn't videotape or record them.
I think
How many people were on those committees?
3.
we always have
So it
three.
wasn't a quorum.
No, but it was a lot of committee meetings. It was a lot of committee meetings and it was a lot of work. And, you know, the whole moving to the workshop format was meant to help us as a board manage our time better. But then the workshops, you know, kind of got away from, so kind of the impetus of that was we would have our committee meetings, we'd come back to the board and we'd rehash our whole meetings. And so it was taking double the time. And so instead of doing that, we decided we were gonna have a workshop, but then when we moved to the workshop, those agendas kind of went. So really, the workshop should be 3 committee meetings. Because we got operations, finance, 4, legislative, policy, and personnel. We had 4 committees.
But they only met once a month, most of them. So if we did 2 committees per workshop, which is why we have finance at one of the workshops, like always the first.
Yeah. So then we would never really deal with the policies.
Well, you wouldn't have
During board
the other meeting.
But-
But she was talking about 4 committees doing 2, one Monday and 2 another Monday.
Anyway,
But, and
that's-
then anything else that comes up, because we may not fill the whole hour with those 2 things. Good discussion for next month. We got enough for superintendent to do right now, I think. You want more?
Got a whole bunch of stuff up there.
I have lots of action steps.
Okay, well, good discussion, everybody. Let's, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Moved by Ms. Osborne, second by Ms. Rowe. We'll return back at 6:10. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We'll go to our regular board meeting at 6:10.
Oh, no.
Monday night, this many people here. So I will call the November 6th, 2023 school board meeting to order. All board members are present along with Superintendent Wagner. We've already done the Pledge of Allegiance at our workshop. We have the meeting agenda, and I have one addition I'd like to make. If anybody else has any before we approve the agenda? I wish to, under committee, school board reports, put back in place the finance committee. And I'll give you my thoughts on that when we do that. So with that addition, is there any other additions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Rowe, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Schoenfelder. No, hearing, seeing no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Educational plan is right there on the wall, back on the back corner of the room here, I mean. We follow that on all our meetings. Along with that, Ms. Buck is gonna read our mission statement.
The mission of the Red Wing Public Schools is to educate and inspire all students as they realize their full potential and become respectful, responsible, and productive citizens.
Thank you. We now have recognitions and upcoming events. Anybody have any recognitions or upcoming events? I have a few. I attended the Excel breakfast on Wednesday, the 18th. They have their annual meeting, talk about the Excel plans and the community involvement that they do. Let's see, what else did I do here? We have special LMC, I'll report that. We had flag raising today at the Southeast Technical College, Southeast Minnesota College. So that was very well. It went really well till the wind picked up. We're standing out there. Got kind of chilly, but it was very nice. Good meal after that, so. And we got Thanksgiving coming up. Today's there's no school, so. Does anybody else have anything? Yes, Michelle.
Well, the Veterans Day commemoration is happening this Friday at 10 a.m. and is open to the public.
Yeah, let's talk a little about it.
That's a really great event.
It is.
If you haven't been, it's really a great thing to attend.
Been there a few times, it's a wonderful event. You bet. Anybody have anything else? Yes, Ms. Hill.
We had two students who went to state for cross country, Nora Hansen and I think it's Rylan. That's something, I apologize. Benny Hawk, yes. They did great, but were able to go state, so that was fun.
I was trying to find out how they did this weekend online. I couldn't find it, so.
I'm not sure how they did, but I know they were there.
Yeah, good. And second quarter starts tomorrow? All right, public comment. Is there anybody signed up for public comment?
There's no one signed up.
Thank you. Superintendent Wagner, do you have anybody? I didn't have any either, so we'll go on. We are now here for the ever important student and school showcase. And who's gonna take that? Mr. Bierman, are you taking the lead on that?
I will introduce, but they're gonna be coming in just a moment. I'm Patrick Bierman, the principal at Twin Bluff Middle School. And as you can tell, we've got a little bit of energy in the hallway. I believe that we are meeting the mission statement fulfillment of inspiring our youth because they are engaged and they're excited to share with you some of the things they've done the first quarter. I've got Mr. Nick Richmond out in the hallway. He's the STEM teacher for us this year. And he has basically revitalized the program. And if any of you saw the video in Sunday's newsletter about the regatta, this is what it's been like every day in STEM class. So it's been an actual really good time and the students are learning a lot. I will bring them in.
Thank you.
All right, it's y'all's turn. You ready to talk? No.
You're just like a mouse, just quiet as a mouse in here when I come in.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
So I am Nick Richmond. I am a converted STEM teacher from Fayette, and things are going well so far. No fire trucks yet. So what we're gonna do is, it's our first time And so we're just gonna wing it and go with that. So our first group will be the fifth grade champions of our bridge building contest. So out of all the fifth graders, their bridge held up to the most weight. Okay, so we have Grayson, Arlo, Chase, Eileen.
Why don't you bring them right in here, then
They're
they're
gonna
going to
come
come down the
down, if
camera.
you have any questions, you can do it as they walk by.
I'll go on the other side so they feel comfortable.
Don't trip.
Watch out for everyone. Why don't you go on the other side of the, Mr. Bierman, why don't you go on the other side of the
Yep, here,
table?
go this way, guys. This way. There you go.
Right there. Great. Welcome. We're all kind of quiet, kind of noisy in the hallway there for a little bit. It was all the other ones out there. It wasn't you guys, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely not.
So a little background with the bridge building, they had to get in a group. They had to create a team name for their company. They formed a company. They had a contractor, a boss, and they were allotted 105 popsicle sticks and 30 glue sticks. From that, they had to create a design based on 9 different bridge designs that they had to look up. And from that, they had to build it, tweak it, but they had to stay within their budget of the 30 and 105. I got a little weak at the end, gave them more sticks. They had a thing where the lumber company at the end had a sale and they were able to trade back glue stick for a popsicle stick, which a lot of them took advantage of. And they did quite well. It was hard. We got a lot of weight on these before they broke. I'm not quite sure if it's a glue holding them together or what, but this group did fabulous.
What's the weight they had on this?
Well, we had containers of magnets. And then when we got to the championship round, we would fill up the 20-ounce bottles of Pepsi and Mountain Dew with water. And they had 19 of those. So that's a lot of weight.
That is a
And
lot
so
of weight.
we had a span of 18 inches, so they had to build a bridge at 20. And we had more issues trying to keep it straight and keeping the weight on than the bridge bending rate. But so these guys were tripping. These are your fifth grade champions.
Why don't you tell us your names out loud, because you're on camera. People at home have their computers going. They are gonna see you. So, okay, one question. Who was the contractor and who was the boss?
I was the designer, like the boss, and then it wasn't really. There were 3 roles. There was designer, 2 carpenters, and a gluer.
Okay,
Which the gluer was kind of just all of us taking turns, but mainly Grace.
it's good to have a young lady on your team, making sure it all straightens out and everything's built right, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead and say your names, please. We'll start with you.
Eileen.
Eileen what? Your last name? I'm sorry?
Norma Lopez.
Oh, nice to meet you.
My name is Grayson Bartholomew.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Chase Fisher.
Okay, nice to meet you.
My name is Arlo Moida Hager.
Nice to meet you. Well, congratulations.
Well
Good
done.
job. Good job.
We're gonna do a group picture at the end, yes.
Okay.
And I think we're gonna do it out there. If you just wanna, yeah, hang out right here, bring the next.
Are you gonna come out or stand?
You're fine here.
Okay. All right, so our next group, the 6th grade group, has the latecomers, so we're gonna skip their group and go right to the robotic hand.
Oh, okay.
Come on in, robotic hand people.
Right here, guys.
Right up front here.
Come on
Mr.
in.
Bierman.
This is Reed.
Come to me. Right there in the middle, because then look, this is the camera, and you're out on the internet.
So they had a set material list that they had to use. And from that, they had to build their own robotic hand using their hand as a guide. And it had to bend and be able to pick up a pop can. Majority of them, so, but they worked really hard. We used 7 different materials. As you know, STEM is all about making mistakes and rebuilding, making mistakes. And so they would build it and then they would realize the hand is really floppy. So if you look on the back of Logan's, Logan, can you hold yours up? We had to put a strip on the back to make it more stable. Okay, and then we used a lot of straws and they had to use glue guns. And so we had string and so a lot of detailing. But every student, 5th and 6th grade, had to do that. And we were all pretty happy with what they did.
Very good. Why don't you tell us your names and how long it took you to do the project?
Logan Oj, I think it took around like a week, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure about a week.
Nice to meet you.
Reed Adler,
Nice to meet you. How long did it take you?
in like total about 2 weeks.
Did Coca-Cola sponsor you?
Yeah.
You should get some little kickback for that,
right.
for being on the air.
Well
So,
done, thank you.
Well, good job. All right.
Okay, next up we have Raylan with our electric cars. One of these are both powered by 9-volt batteries.
Come over here by Mr. Bierman, please.
Hold that up. So both our 5th grade and 6th grade did these. We did not get a chance to, the blue one that he has test out, that's a hoverboard. And if you look, Raylan, if you could show the people the bottom of it, there's magnets. So we put a board of magnets underneath and the opposing polarizations, when you turn the fan on, that will stay off the board and float around. Okay, but we just tried to get too many projects in one quarter, but the design was there. We didn't get a chance to test them. The other one is another one with a 9-volt battery. The material that we used was actually broken down from previous cars that were in the storage. We took, I took white foam that came with the CO2 tracks and cut them in little blocks, and the kids had to trace them out, cut them, make sure they were aerodynamic, and then again, glue everything down. So, you know, the first quarter, they just got a sample of everything that we were gonna do, but they did awesome. And Raylan was a very big part of it.
Raylan, why don't you turn around, let the camera pick up, so up there, and as Mr. Bierman said, internet land. What's your name, please?
Raylan Van Dusen.
How long did it take you to make these?
About one class time or about 40 minutes.
40 minutes, you made those?
Well, this one, we
This
didn't
one?
really do this one.
Wow.
What was your biggest obstacle?
Probably having them go straight. They would turn, the wheels aren't really in place, they just move along the axle.
And Raylan, was this an individual project or was it a group project?
Yes, it was an individual.
Individual project.
Nice.
Very good, good job.
Well,
Okay, now we're going back to our bridge building. These two gals are, oh, we have 3 people. So we're missing one. So the 3 of them are the 6th grade bridge building champions, and we're missing one student from the group.
That's recording.
Hi.
So tell us about your project. How long did it take you?
Probably about a week.
Yeah, about a week. Yeah.
And how much weight did it hold?
It supported it all.
All of them.
How much
I think it was
I don't
22
remember.
cups of like the magnets, and I
Yeah.
don't know how many bottles of water.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Did it ever break?
No.
It didn't even like weigh down at all.
Why don't you tell us your names, please, first and last names?
My name is Finn Ryan.
My name is Nyla Noreen.
My name is Madeline Smith.
Well, very good. Nice job. Looked very good there.
thank you.
Very tall and straight. Good job.
Okay, You can sit down right here. Okay, next up, this is a last minute entry, and this will be part of our projects for next quarter.
Back this way,
We wanted to unveil it, and this is a simulation of how our lungs work using syringes, balloons, and so if you look on the top of the box, it says inhale, exhale. And then we use syringes and aquarium tubing, and hopefully the balloons don't shoot and go all over.
Oh, they're playing.
I will try it. So then the second quarter, this will be an individual project, and they will all get to take it.
Okay. Well, that's very nice. How long did it take you to make this?
That is gonna take them probably 2 days.
2 days.
You got to build a box, and then I have all the papers ran off, and they just have to run the tubing, and we use a lot of aquarium equipment, and so they have to tie it down and get the right length. So we incorporate a lot of measuring in all our projects. Every table has a bin, we have a tape measure, we have rulers, and they have to know the exact amount, because if you cut the tube too short and you have to bend it, it kinks it. So they have to know just how much to allow. And they go through a lot of them, and again, mistakes are allowed in my class. They're actually encouraged, because then we know that they're trying and recreating.
Why don't you give us your names, please?
I'm Ari
Your last name?
Mars.
Okay, good.
I'm Mariah Hammond.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming. Any questions or anybody? No, good job.
Got a couple of chairs, if you wanna, one sit there, one sit there.
So we're gonna have all the, if you're involved with the lava experiment
Oh, okay.
and the elephant toothpaste, you can come back out in the hallway. And
All right.
Elephant toothpaste? That's gonna be interesting.
Obviously, we didn't practice this before we came in,
That's
so.
fine.
It's busy group.
A lot quieter when they get in this room, don't they?
Yeah, it's something about the power of proximity. It is a true thing.
So I have a question for the two bridge building groups, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah.
So what were your strategies? What was your thinking behind, what did you do to make it really strong?
We built ours, the sides first, so we can make the sides stronger. And then the bottom and the top after we got both sides done, so we could spend more time on the sides instead of the bottom.
And how about you guys?
For ours, we actually made, like, basically the opposite of them. We made the bottom first, spent like half of our obstacle sticks on completely, like, really reinforcing it. Yes. And then we have sides that were just like, half of the group was reinforcing parts that weren't strong, and half the group was making new parts of the sides. And then, once we had the sides done, we just kind of layered a bunch of obstacle sticks on top, and then just put a lot of glue on it so it's stuck, and then
So you actually tried putting things on the bridge as you were building it to make sure it was strong enough?
yeah. And we kept going back to places that were already finished, and then putting more glue and reinforcing them.
Did anyone get stuck to the bridge by the glue?
No, I broke myself a couple times, though.
Yeah.
Hot glue.
It honestly doesn't feel too bad, it doesn't hurt, and then it doesn't hurt. It always feels good. It hurts for like a millisecond, then it stops hurting. Okay. In my opinion, it feels good. You're eating better, well, dude.
Now, Mr. Richmond said that you guys were looking at different types of bridges.
Oh, yeah.
What did that
There was
research
our
entail?
Bridge,
There was a thing where I, like, On Google Classroom, there was a sheet or thing he had prepared. And it had like a few different types of footage. The Warren is the one we went with, which was just like triangles. There was like a double intersection Warren. There was a lot of stuff. And I just picked something.
What about you?
My group combined, well, yeah, my group combined the Warner and the Truss Bridge together.
Okay.
So, and then we took, parts from both bridges. So on the Warner, they had like, I'm pretty sure they had like these small little triangles.
Yep.
So we put those on there, and then the bigger triangles go from the truss, I believe. So, yeah, and then we also took what Mr. Richmond said and added pieces on the inside, so it wouldn't make it so it can't just slide over like that.
Do you know what the term for that is?
Now,
Cross racing, I believe.
the rest was, we'll do that.
Okay,
I'm a little nervous. They've got gloves on and glasses.
yeah. I'm gonna leave the school for about 15 minutes. I'll come back. So you guys, can you move back, Ben? Thank you. Just anytime we work with anything other than water, they wear gloves. And, so this is called elephant toothpaste. Elephant toothpaste requires, hydrogen peroxide, food coloring, Dawn dish soap, water, and a sachet. Is it sachet or sachet of yeast, active yeast? And they know what to do. Go ahead. So the yeast will be the catalyst, and that will cause the reaction with hydrogen peroxide. Okay, put the cap back on that, please. The food coloring, I don't know where elephant toothpaste got the name, but we use red and blue for the Colgate toothpaste. Again, sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. Make sure you stir up the yeast real well. Okay, when we're ready, just stand back and one person will pour it in. Stir it up really well. You can, did we put the food coloring in? Not yet. Okay, put that in. Stir it up one more time, the yeast. Pour it in. No, Mary, pour it in, quick, quick, quick.
Ooh, nice.
So that sure does. And you could add multiple colors, and it's gonna keep boiling and boiling. And if you feel around, the foam will be very hot. Okay, which is of course the higher concentration of the hydrogen peroxide. And so that's pretty much it. And then, oh yeah, go ahead. At the end of every project we do, we will put together, their final exam is talk about the ingredients. We have them define 3 words, 4 words that have to do with the experiment, what they expected that didn't happen, what they didn't expect and happened, and how would you make it more fun? And of course, he said, add more hydrogen. All right, that's it. That's the best it's done
All right.
all year.
Where would you like to go, Mr. Bierman?
I would just like to say that I really appreciate the energy and enthusiasm that Mr. Richmond brings to the class. And it shows with the students, and the fact that mistakes are authorized and encouraged because that's how we learn. We get out of our comfort zone. I really appreciate this type of class because this is a class that Mr. Bierman would have done well in back in the day. So, and parents, I really appreciate you bringing your students and sharing them with our school board and the community and the internet at large. I really, really enjoy being your principal, and I thank you for sharing your kids with us.
And I stopped them too quick. We have one more, really quick.
I thought you said that's it.
No, I meant that's it with this one.
Oh, okay.
If they were expecting fireworks or whatnot. The other one.
No, this isn't homecoming football. There's no fireworks.
Really quick.
Next one's better.
Okay. You set the bar pretty high. Gee, and I gave my final speech too, and I'm out.
Now the other kids are doing this. Whoa.
Yeah, right. So who gets to keep the bridges from the teams?
I don't know.
Is that gonna be like a wrestling event? Dibs?
I'm holding it, so I have it.
Yes. He can be on the stairs and that stuff.
Well, let's see. The 5th grade has 4 team members on it, so that means one can keep it for the rest of 5th grade, one can keep it for 6th, one can keep it for 7th, and then we can make it a traveling trophy to 8th grade at the high school, right?
I'm holding it, so I get it.
Yeah, or that too.
You're only saying that because you're holding yours.
Yeah. None of that long-term stuff.
I think your love is the blankets getting ready to
Yeah, right. So what's the last one he's bringing? Does anybody know?
Said something about lava, like
Oh, the
about
lava
like
lamp?
a lava lamp. Oh, the lava lamp.
Yeah, good idea.
I was wondering, those were cool.
Wait, we have someone.
You may sit in a chair if you'd like, yes. And there's chairs right behind you. If you prefer to sit in a chair, you may sit in a chair. Just be careful of the courts, please.
So do you take the STEM class all year, half a year?
It's a quarter.
Yep, they
I
just
want
finished.
all year. I think that would be a good yes.
So then what other classes do you have? STEM 1 quarter, then what?
Family, computer science, art.
And then.
There's music,
I think
there's facts, music, and art, like,
Yep, and then world culture too.
no, it's not a quarter like.
Yeah, it is. It's not for 5th grade.
No, not for you. Yep. We got a mix, that's why.
Okay, so now we have Mila and Madeline, and we will end tonight with our lava lamp experiment.
The better one.
And this contains Crisco oil, some baking soda, what else we have? Vinegar and, they say baking soda, vinegar, that, and, or light. So, you can turn the light on. Okay. Put your, yep, on top. So, that's it.
Goes to the top.
What did you just learn?
Vinegar
and cola, yeah.
That's so good.
So we'll add all of it, but it's gonna flow.
Yeah, we don't wanna do that. You did good.
These are all products that you find at home, and that will go on. It went on the whole hour. And then while they're doing that, then they can write up their final exam and do it all. It was fun.
All right, thank you. So
then to follow up, Mr. Bryant, I would just like to say that they're all welcome to stay until the end and watch the rest of the democracy in action.
You guard the door.
I will guard the door, no, but I appreciate y'all coming and sharing.
We
So,
want to take a group picture.
yep, we're gonna take a group picture with all of the students, and I actually have certificates for each and every one of you. Yeah. We're gonna go right out this door. Miss Pena, can you open the door for us? And let the kids come out. I'll grab the certificates. They're over in my briefcase. Oh, wow, then they used a font that I can't read. Okay. Oh, no, I read cursive, this isn't cursive. I've never seen this before.
I don't even know how to
I know. It's good to see you, Trish. I'm sorry for everybody. I'm also looking at. You got it.
Yeah, can you text her to come down to my room?
Yeah.
I have a student who we've identified in bar with his father, and we had talked about meeting with him.
Yeah. I can lead us additional. Yeah. Freaked out a little bit. Like that. Like you're smiling. I smiled.
Yeah, I smiled. Yeah, it's energy for our purpose. It's better than that here. Yeah. Than just like, not good. Yeah, positive stuff. Yeah, it's nice. Yes.
What are we waiting for?
Hurry up, you. Oh, you and your reality.
I know, that's from a full house.
Now who's
like Jim Bryant? Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Beerman.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I apologize if Mr. Richmond doesn't completely understand what 20 minutes is.
That was real good.
But I was like, that's too much. No, we'll be quick.
It's great. I loved it.
But I love the energy.
Yeah.
Because,
What a cool class.
yeah.
All right, I don't know, Ms. Buck will be back soon, so we'll continue on. LMC Committee Health Insurance Options, Ms. Ryder. Hello again. How are you?
Good. Okay, so tonight we want to talk about our Labor Management Committee that has reviewed our health insurance options for this next calendar year. Our fiscal year runs July to June, however, our insurances run January to December. And so we have an open enrollment that we have coming up soon, provided we have an approved plan by the board this evening. So tonight, we want to walk you through exactly where we're at with this. This was not a year to do bids. That was last year. So this year was about us taking a look. We could have done bids, but we took a look at what it was that was being offered by our Blue Cross Blue Shield current provider. And what you see included in the packet is, and I think, Lisa, if you want to pull up the renewal file that you and I talked about earlier. Included in the information is our current plans and taking a look at what is the current premium compared to what would be the premium that's being proposed for 2024 calendar year. We currently have 5 plans. We have a $3,000 deductible with what we call Aware program or high value. We have a $5,000 deductible, Aware and high value, and we have one $7,000 deductible with Aware program. This particular document is in the board packet, and it shows then the information by each of those different plans, the current rate. You can see the current enrollment, and you can see the renewal rate, and then the percent change is on the far right. And overall, we had a cap going into this year with our current provider, which protected us, but it did mean that we were at that cap for an increase, and that average across all the plans is 17% increase. So with that information, we had to make a decision next around exactly what plans do we want to see in the current year for 2024 calendar. And at the last page of this same document, there are 3 other alternate plans that we took a look at, of which there was an additional 7,000 plan, which would allow the high value network, kind of mirroring what is going on for the 3,000 and the 5,000 deductible. And then we also took a look at what is the cap with regard to what is allowed by state statute for the highest deductible plan that is available, and that's $8,050, and showing those numbers as well. So what we have in our recommendation is the Labor Management Committee reviewed all of this information, and the recommendation of the committee is to expand our current plan options to include the existing 5 medical insurance plans and to add 1 new medical insurance plan, making it 6. And that new one would be then the 7,000 deductible plan, which would, again, like I say, mirror the current one we have for the Aware program. Lisa, if you would pull up the other document we talked about, which is the comparisons. Is it comparisons? This one shows the information, the network comparisons. So when we talk about Aware versus high value network, we have proposed a 3,000, 5,000, 7,000, one in each of these different areas. The Aware network basically includes all of those you see with the X's on the left column. And on the right column, you see some of those X's are gone and they are blank. That means that those particular networks are not, or I should say those particular facilities are not within the high value network. The reason for the recommendation for the additional plan is essentially to offer a plan that would be a little bit more affordable for people from a premium perspective, although there is a little greater risk with regard to the higher deductible with that option. This is the summary of our medical insurance, and then additionally at the same time, they provided us rates for the dental through Blue Cross Blue Shield. Guardian provides us long-term disability and life insurance. For the dental, long-term disability, and life insurance, there is a 0% increase, but it is recommended by the committee that we move forward with that 0% increase, but stay with these same plans that we currently have for the calendar 2024. Our next steps then is for the open enrollment process, provided something's approved this evening, then we would move forward with working with all of our different groups We have a plan to communicate with our active employees as well as retirees under 65, beginning November 14th, which is the day before we will open up the open enrollment period. And that open enrollment period will be from November 15th through November 30th. We did open this up an additional week so that we can make sure we have time for people to take a look at that, particularly with a holiday in there. And so we're going to have those meetings on the 14th before they can actually get in and do it, so they can get information. Then they'll be into the system and able to do their research and decision-making for each of them individually. Additionally, we will have one-to-one assistance available on 4 different meeting dates, or times, I should say, 2 different days. November 27th, we will have at 2 o'clock to 3:30 at the Sunnyside Cobble in the Sunnyside IMC. And then that same day at 4 o'clock, we will move over to the Little Theater at the high school for district office and Red Wing High School staff. And then the 29th, we would have similar type meetings, 2 o'clock at the Burnside Tower View Group at the Burnside IMC. And Twin Bluff and Cobble would follow at 4 to 6 p.m. in Twin Bluff Middle School, room A139. So all of that information went out today in a save the date information for our active employees. And we're getting that out to our retirees tomorrow, assuming everything flows.
Any questions? Yes.
When we have the rates on here, that's per month or
Yes.
per month?
Thank you. That is per month. That is monthly rate.
And then we have a number of bargaining groups that are in negotiations, some that haven't really started. How does open enrollment work? Like, let's say, the open enrollment period ends and then the new contract is signed. Does that open up another window, or are they still locked into what they have until the end of that?
Right. They'll want to make the choice around the plan and not so much around the contribution that might be possibly changing within their agreements.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
How long is this just for next year?
This is calendar 2024. Oh my, yes.
We looked at rebidding it, and Blue Cross bid it for 2 years with a caveat of not to increase by 17%. They said if they rebid it, it'd be probably in the 20-some% increase. These are enormous increases. And that's why the committee chose to offer the 6th plan, the 7,000 high value for people that wish to go to another facility that's listed on the right side of that page. So now this covers for like regular appointments. If you're hurt in your yard or something, you need to go to a local provider, whoever's not in the network, because it's an emergency, your plan will cover that. But by just choosing to go to a non-network, you'll pay a higher percentage of the bill. So it's not easy. It was not a good conversation to have. But everybody understood the situation. Everybody was in agreement to go with the 6 plans. To do it on the 6th, we had a special meeting on the 30th, so the enrollment period could be the 2 weeks instead of after the 20th. Through the holiday, it would be just really tight. So the recommendation is to approve the 6 plans, and then we'll go back to the dental and the vision and all that stuff. But the health plans will probably be the first thing we'll be voting on.
I will make a motion to approve Blue Cross Blue Shield with 2024 renewal rates as the district's health and dental provider, and Guardian with 2024 renewal rates as the district's long-term disability and life insurance provider for calendar year 2024.
Okay, we're doing them all together.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Tiff, second by Ms. Schoenfelder. Thank you for doing that. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, we got snow days and closure discussion. Superintendent Wagner. And Emily Seafeld, you want to come forward, please?
So So as Emily comes forward, I will just update some language that has changed, which is not a lot. So for our employee reporting procedures, we actually moved, so essentially we'll have 3 closure days: an e-learning day, which we'll talk about a little bit with Emily, standard closure, which was formerly the normal closure day, and then critical closure, which is typical recurring language for when the entire district is closed. So just some language. The description for each is still the same as in previous years. So in e-learning, our school is not in session. Students are engaging in e-learning or choice board activities. Kids Junction is still open to our families. Our instructional staff are remote, or in their offices if they choose to provide e-learning services. For the standard closure, which is formerly the normal closure, school is not in session in our buildings. Our kids are not engaged in e-learning. However, our staff are engaged in professional development during that time. For this next school year, we actually have 3 opportunities to actually have a standard or a critical closure. We'll talk about critical closure in a second. We have 5 state-issued e-learning days. Critical closure, like I said before, is typical language that we've had in the past, but the entire district is closed except for Kids Junction. So in all of these cases, Kids Junction staff are reporting, and those services are there. No staff reports to buildings, and that includes our nutrition services, our custodial, minus those that have to check in on our boilers and just do some building and systems checks. But our students are also not engaged in e-learning. So the only thing that really changed is that we changed normal to standard just to kind of have streamlined of language. So we'll practice that as we have some weather come around. I thought it was important to present all of this to you. Our staff has been made aware of the expectations per bargaining group or job class. So they are aware of how they report either requesting guidance from their supervisor or just directives that have been set in place by our employment procedures. So that's a little bit about what to expect. I will put into the space that this year, the first closure day will be a standard closure. And so our staff will be engaging in professional development, hopefully checking and making sure that Google Classrooms and everything they would have done had it been a e-learning day is set in place, but they are already well aware of what professional development needs to be happening on the day. So the first closure will be a standard closure. Each subsequent closure will be calling it by year. We have about 8 days to play with this year. So, we're going to talk a lot more about e-learning, and so Emily is here. Allegra and Emily have been working really hard on streamlining and optimizing communication out to our staff, our students, and our families.
So we redid kind of our e-learning just to be more easily accessible for families. So I'm going to show you that doc. This will be going on our website within the next week. And then also this has already gone to all building admin. So we wanted it to really live in one space. So you'll see on your screen right now, this is all linked. So we have a Spanish and an English page right here. And this is our e-learning plan. Everything is a live link. For E5, actually at conferences today, they would have gotten copies of the packets for e-learning. So that went home. This is if they needed access to it as well. So on this, you can see, let me see if it lets me do this. We have our e-learning letter all ready to go as well. Everything's translated, and this really goes over what it looks like, the office hours for K5 and also 612 and what students will be doing as well. And it's just really, we wanted to make it easy for families to understand and find. And you can clearly see office hours for our staff as well. Questions on this? So these are all links. So it'll open, for example, if I opened 4th grade. And it lays out their whole learning. And so for E5, it's by content categories. And you pick something from every content category for that day. And then they have all of the pages that are necessary for that as well. And when we compared ourselves to the district around us, all the districts around us in Big 9 were very much in alignment with what they do as well.
Okay. Questions? Yes.
So when I'm looking back at the school closure language, I I think one of the questions that has come up in the past is what about sports activities and or practices? And so if that could be spelled out under those three: critical closure, standard closure, and e-learning. I know sometimes we've had really bad storm in the morning, the clouds have gotten out, and then by 3:00, you can get to the arena, you can get to the gymnasium, and you know what, I think it's just really confusing for students and parents to, do we have practice, is that game canceled, what's happening?
So those conversations are already started. So on a critical closure day, they will in fact remain closed. The conversations that we're having currently are with Paul Hartman around responsibilities and who would arm and unarm the building. We are also in conversations with our custodials crew because it's a critical closure for everyone, it's a critical closure for them. So it's more about a conversation with our athletics and activities department just to ensure, but we can add a line into our letter and also in our employee reporting responsibilities, which is just internal, so that we have that clarified. One piece that we did add to the employee reporting procedures this year is just definitions of what each means, so that there's a little bit more clarity based on us meeting with all of the groups.
So do you have an answer then, like if it's a standard closure, are sports still?
Critical closure is, we're not having.
No, standard.
Standard closure would be, that's where the conversation is having some stickiness right now. So we're going to come back to the table to clarify that in hopes that the snow doesn't come this week. But that we have that clarified before the first closure day. Because that has been a point that's come up.
And for e-learning too, then I would assume if school is closed.
Yes.
It came up once when I was board chair to make the call too, of whether or not there was gonna be a board meeting. So I would assume that that should also follow that same guideline, right? That if it's critical, custodians are not reporting, we would not have a board meeting that day, if it happened to be a Monday. But to be determined.
Well, if it's a board day, I'll just call it critical closure.
For snow on Monday, kids.
Probably, unless it's all virtual, but that may be complicated, so.
Yeah,
Let's hope it doesn't happen on a Monday.
right, yeah.
So, any questions? The e-learning is important, I think, to the board too. Making sure that we, on e-learning days, that the kids have somebody to help them with problems and be available, and the kids need to be available too. The parents need to know that too, so. We're here to educate, so e-learning is.
And that's, so you might have seen when the website's updated as well, we had flexible learning that was used sometime. We just have landed on e-learning from now on. That is what the state designates it as well, even though we have some kids doing some different things as well. So that's kind of another thing that we streamlined this year as well.
Good. All right. Any action at this point? Okay, thank you, Emily. Well, we have a milk fund discussion. We gotta call it something. If we can't call it Angel, Jess, come on up, please. How are you?
All right.
Go ahead. We're gonna have a discussion on the milk that we've had for some time now.
Sounds good. So I wanted to kind of educate everybody about a la carte milk. So it is an a la carte charge. It's not included in school lunches or school breakfast. So if it's purchased on its own, it is considered a la carte. So it's a whole different category. But if we were to offer a fruit or a veggie or both and the milk, then it would be free. I've been working at a couple different schools this year and it really hasn't been an issue. I haven't seen a whole lot of kids that say, no, you can't have milk, or the teachers know, oh, grab up this and that, and then you get the milk for free. A couple things that I wanted to bring to the board was, should we be concerned that we're paying for milk for some children and not all children that want to purchase just the milk a la carte charge? Maybe some families would seem unfair to those that maybe they have money in their account, but then the others don't have money in their account. I don't know if that's something that you guys are concerned about. And then another thing that I wanted to put out there is that we probably would need to get a policy put in place because we do have a policy for a la carte charges. And if you want it just for milk, it probably needs to be completely separate.
How do we do the angel fund now? Is there a policy or a procedure on that?
There's a procedure on that. And I can share that procedure with you guys too.
So is there something that we could do, a procedure on the milk discussion if people wish to?
We would definitely have to craft one, and
I think that's kind of the direction I was hearing that we were interested in.
Okay.
Doing something where people wish to donate, like to the angel fund, when people's accounts were delivered, they could donate to whichever one you want to call it, AKA milk fund, to help them out. Right, yes.
Yeah, so you said something about if they pick fruit and milk, then it's
free.
Yep.
It's free.
So
it's like you're buying a lunch and you pick those two things.
correct. So they have to have 3 components for it to qualify for a breakfast or lunch.
Okay.
So if they were to get like a fruit and a veggie and a milk, then it's free.
Okay.
For example, I was working at Sunnyside on Halloween and we were having these frozen fruit. They're called slushies, but it's actually just 100% fruit. And then we also had like a lettuce salad. Well, the child chose to grab that because they wanted the treat anyhow. And then they got the salad and the milk for free. She was ecstatic. She was really excited about it. So.
Yes.
So this is something we had talked about, not being in the school, not seeing what's happening. So you said that you don't see that as a problem right now. Do you think it's worth writing a policy, coming up with a procedure from your perspective?
From my perspective, I have not seen it, and I've worked in probably 3 or 4 schools. The only school I haven't worked in is the high school, and those students actually sometimes choose to get an extra milk because they're growing kids. They eat and drink a lot more. But so, like, where do we draw the line? Like, do we give them other a la carte for the fund? You know, that's why I'm saying we have to like kind of draw the line and like have them super separate rather than having the a la carte fund. We have to have like a milk fund procedure put in place for sure. But I have not myself.
I would imagine though you see it like kids who are bringing a whole lunch are buying the milk. So I would assume you're seeing that, correct?
Yep.
So those are the kids too, I think that were primarily the focus of maybe this thought process that they don't want to take a lunch to throw it away. Maybe they're just bringing a full lunch. Is there a way to just get them a milk without having to take the lunch? I think that was the whole thought behind doing the milk fund.
Sure.
And as far as allowing it to be for everyone, if there was a way in the procedure to have it that anyone who's just buying the milk, this fund could be used for them. I don't know how it would work.
Yeah, and how.
But, you know, so it's not just those kids that don't have money in their account.
Correct.
It's for anyone who wants.
And how would we fund that? Like, would we be able to fund that for everybody? Like, we'd have to put some numbers together to see how often it's happening and just have to make it fair to everybody.
Yes.
Are you seeing, or is your staff seeing any throwing away of the 2 other components just to get the milk?
I have not. I can ask around though. I can certainly ask. Yeah.
Because I think that is another concern of ours, is like, if you just want milk, you'll take the other 2 things, and then I don't really want those other 2 things, so in the garbage they go.
Right. And they're only required a half cup, so it could be quarter, make it a half. So it's not like it's a whole lot. It's not like it's a huge meal, but we could definitely take a peek at that and make sure that it's not going to waste.
Even if it's a quarter cup or a cup, just go in the garbage.
Right.
Because somebody wanted to know.
And sometimes it does give those children opportunities to try new things that maybe they don't have at home, because we do offer a variety of fresh fruits and veggies in all our schools.
Yes.
And do we have an idea what our angel fund brought in yearly? You know, just to kind of compare, since we won't need that for school lunches anymore. And milks are so much cheaper.
I can give you a total of what we had last year, but it's pretty much gone because we did take care of a lot of unpaid meal debt last year. I think we had maybe I'd have to give you a total, but I know that we have probably a couple $100 left, which is not a lot.
I think it also will come down to, like you said, the high school, somebody maybe wants 2 milks.
Mhm, that
But they would
happens.
have to pay for the other milk, and to see somebody, I think it's a good thing to have in place in case some students need it.
Mhm.
I do. And donate, if people wish to donate some fund to help somebody out. I think having something there better than not.
What is the cost per milk?
55 cents.
So if people donate $20, they could spend, it would help somebody out if need be during the calendar year,
Sure.
the school year.
Or could that money be donated to their à la carte? I mean, like I'm thinking, it's pretty hard.
Yeah, like who do you pick and choose to do it? Like, do you give it to everybody or is it just? I mean,
Sorry, I was
really-
just-
My kids wrapped up a whole lot of à la carte because they liked cookies and things, but they're like, we can see what you buy.
The minute that came out of my mouth, I wanted to do that, right?
I do
Like,
assure,
we getting the cookies and skipping the milk.
I do assure you it's Smart Snack compliant cookies, so they are whole grain, even though they don't know that.
Why don't you take a look around, see what you think, and come back with a recommendation.
Absolutely. I
If you
will
want to
take-
do it or not do it.
I
Leave
want
it up
to,
to you.
I definitely want to take a peek at food waste, like you had mentioned, and then I can come back with, the amount of angel funds that we had last year, what we started with and what we ended up with, if you guys would like me to give you that.
So
And maybe just also how many kids are buying the milk? That would give us a great idea
Yeah,
how much it would cost us if we're subsidizing those milks.
I can easily get that report for you guys too. I'll get you a milk purchases for the month of October, because that's our normal month usually in the food nutrition.
Sure. Leave it up to you.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah, Jen, I'm sorry.
Could I ask a question of just not this topic?
Sure.
Okay, I am hearing from a lot of kids at the high school that there's not a lot of food being served for the regular meal. Do you know if that amount has changed this year versus last year now that it's state funded? Is there a change in the amount of food that they're getting?
No, we're regulated by a certain amount of protein, like fruits and veggies, like I told you, we have a lot of variety. Actually, the high school has the most of variety. I would encourage all of you to come and have lunch at the high school. You guys would be amazed at what they serve.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of really good things about the variety for sure.
There's not less.
I was talking about portion size
Yeah.
and hungry kids. So another question to go along with that then is to get a second entree. I've heard that they can get a golden ticket, but there's some confusion on how to get that golden ticket. Can you explain that?
Yep, so kids that are planning to get a second meal at the high school, they'll go check their balances in the morning at the cafe. And then when they check that they have a positive balance, they'll get a golden ticket. They could trade that in for their entree during lunchtime. Mhm.
And how does that work at the middle school level, if kids are hungry after their lunch?
At middle school level, they just come back up if they're still hungry, and then they put their number in first, make sure they have money in their account. They can go right back through the line.
Is there always enough food to have a second entree?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So when kids go through and just get an entree, is that then charged at the a la carte rate or?
If it's not including any fruit or veggie, it is, they need the 3 components to make it a meal, reimbursable meal.
Got it.
Yeah.
I served at Burnside one day and there was plenty of food. It was actually extra food and and some of the kids had been on field trips, so they love it. They get, what do we have, chicken, what are they, chicken?
Oh, the popcorn chicken.
Yeah, oh, number one.
Yeah. It's so exciting.
That was my job, putting them on. So,
How many do they get you?
10.
Yes,
After a while, I said, we can
that's
have
right,
extra.
that's
Okay,
right.
we'll let her.
That's funny.
So that was good. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jess.
You're welcome.
Superintendent Evaluation Review Board Survey.
Okay, so
all of you were hounded by me to make your final selections for superintendent evaluations. I'm gonna just quickly. It's in the board notes. So what I did was when we looked at, and I had a voting vote in this as well, frequency of votes, and then I also did rank order. So I did some weighting depending on if it was the first priority or second priority or third priority. There will be a little bit of decision making here because there were some splits between some of the priorities that we had. So for frequency of votes, just generally overall across from primary, secondary, tertiary, of importance, we have, of course, governance team element 1, which was goal and strategic planning. And then human resources with the element of hiring and staff development, and then standard 6, teaching and learning, with a focus on curriculum and instruction. So that's just frequency of votes, is kind of how it broke down. I was super curious about weighted rank, and it's very similar. For the weighted rank, what I did is if it was your primary focus or number 1 priority, I ranked it with 3 points for each vote. For second, I gave you 2 points, and for the third, I gave 1. And so we ended up having the goal and strategic plan being in second place. Human resources, hiring and staff development was first, and then we had a split between budget development and maintenance of standard 2, and then teaching and learning, curriculum and instruction. So your decision tonight is to decide, I mean, generally you're pretty close, but you're going to decide between curriculum instruction and board development and maintenance, or if you want to go with frequency of votes, it would be determining between teaching and learning, curriculum instruction, and then strategic planning, which is split. So I'm gonna let you guys just kind of hash it out. I'm fine with however you want to evaluate me. I'm just saying this is how it came up. Remember, I had vote too, so there's 8 people.
How many do we want to do?
I think when Barb was with us, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we had kind of 6 that we had comfortable consensus on. She said to narrow it down to 3.
Yeah, that's what I
And so that's where we're at. We're at kind of like the 3 based on your survey and including, I mean, you're really voting on, of the 6 that we came to a comfortable consensus on, what are your top 3 to focus on for this school year? Doesn't mean I'm not going to be doing the other pieces, it just means I'm gonna ensure that I can at least give you feedback on the 3 that you're hoping that I set.
That's good.
Well, it seemed that there were 2 that came out on top both times, so then we go to the third one, the teaching and learning, thank you, Lisa, teaching and learning with curriculum and instruction was in the top 3 with a tie on the weighted one, and was the third one. We're just looking at choice. So to me, that would be our third option. I realize it's tied with budget for if we weight it. I guess when I was looking at that, budget to me is kind of always an overall goal. So I felt like if we were gonna focus on something specific, mine was curriculum and instruction, but I just think that it looks like it's our number 3, no matter how you look at it in my mind.
I just massage it all different ways just to see what would come out, but.
They all are. And when we look at them, they all are very important. Yes. That's what.
You know, it doesn't matter to me what number 3 is, but honestly, I think that for you, Superintendent Wagner, where would you feel like you would like to grow and expand a little bit more? Yes, we are the board that is evaluating you, but you know, if we put in a goal for you, I want it to make it relevant for you and where you feel you want to grow, and what's important to you as well.
For sure, obviously, we're gonna do the strategic planning, and we're in the strategic planning year, so there's no way to eliminate that. And final curriculum and instruction, I feel like I have an awesome team that's gonna carry the bulk of that work. I do think we need to do something with budget development and maintenance. I think, I'm just gonna say right now, to the public, there's a lot of opportunities for growth to dial in, and the fact that Rachel's being very purposeful about getting a finance committee going and wanting to dig deeper. It could be a really strong partnership to do that as well. So that's where I sit. It doesn't mean curriculum instruction is not like near and dear to my heart. I just know I have a fantastic team that has been doing phenomenal things. With that said, there's ways to simultaneously do that, right? So there's no way we're actually eliminating one just to have another.
Right.
That probably muddied the waters. As you know, I love being evaluated. However, we're gonna do this. I just think our school district finances really need to be looked at. So, that's where my 2 cents are. So.
I don't think any disagreement by any board member on that. So you're saying the 3 then are, why don't you list the 3 that I think Ms. Rowe was asking you and you?
Yeah, I would do, standard 1, so governance element with the goals of strategic planning. Standard 2, human resource element hiring, or standard 5, I'm sorry. Hiring and staff development, and then budget development maintenance.
Everybody good with that?
I promise all of the others are still in the works. I mean,
Do you want a motion for?
Pardon?
Do you want a motion?
Yeah, why don't we do a motion, that way we have it, what we're focusing on.
I make a motion that we evaluate Superintendent Wagner on standard 1B, 2A, and 5E.
Motion by Ms. Ossendorf, is there a second? Second by Ms. Bjornstead. Any discussion? The only thing we'll do is we'll get it put together and then we'll go out after the next meeting on the 20th. And we need them back before the meeting on December.
Do you just want December 4th to be an update, or do you want that full survey to be both midterm and possibly
Midterm, because we're gonna probably do one in May or so. But then we'll have to
Is
go.
that enough time?
Well, you can't not work on these things alone.
Right,
But then the question is also about standards and narratives. So is that the comfortable consensus? So there would be the standards that align to each of these, with open comments or narrative sections for each of these. Is that comfortable?
And is there going to be a rubric?
Yeah, and standards is a rubric, so you'll have like a 4, 3, 2, 1, and then some language for each.
And then we'll go with, if you wish, it's your choice, go into open or closed session for the evaluation. In the past, the previous superintendent evaluation went into closed. And we did that with a summary coming on 18th that we agree upon as a board. Good?
Yep.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Good discussion.
I have a related question.
Oh, well, let's see, what time is it? Go ahead.
Okay, so when we met with Barb to talk about all this, one of the things that she talked about, and then of course, the governance court is gonna pull up and show you again, my commercial. Barb talked about our goals should be complementary to the superintendent's goals. And so, do we have goals? And we probably should. I mean, I feel like we have so much talent right here in this room. And we have a great admin team. And I think that that might also help us, well, help me. I'm just gonna speak for myself. It would help me know what my role is if we had some goals that we were working towards systemically.
If you recall, from the summer, I had 5 kind of overarching goals. That might be a good starting point to kind of talk through. I think she also spoke to, like, of the superintendent goals that, for example, just Rachel's idea of the finance committee is complementary, right?
Right.
So towards that, so just thinking through, you're obviously all going to be part of the strategic plan too. I think the biggest goal for me is like communication out into the community and kind of highlighting the things that we're doing. Obviously, there's things that we have opportunities for growth, but that would be another area of just being complementary to, like, understanding that we're working towards 5 common goals. Here are the 3 that the superintendent is working on, but just having some common language, and maybe we do have a session or a board retreat where we develop those from those 5. Just a thought.
Right, because, well, and the other question I was going to say is if we are, reimagining or redoing or updating our strategic plan, does it make sense to wait till we have that? Or, I don't know. I haven't done this before, so I'm just asking.
Likely the 5 goals will still have elements when you, through our strategic plan, so. It may.
We don't have to wait.
No.
Okay.
You guys are already doing it, by being out in the community and like relaying information or asking questions. The inverse is just highlighting the awesomeness that is happening too, because I'm all about making sure the narrative of the public schools is shifting as we are shifting to next generation Red Wing as well. So I'm seeing it already happening with all of you, so that's super complimentary, but.
Perhaps we, just to have it written down and discuss at our organizational meeting, like this is, our goals for the next year based on your goals and where the district is going. So maybe to just put it in, yeah.
And we already know what one of them will be.
You already know what?
Well, we already know one of them could be finance.
Yeah.
Well, tonight, I think we even hit a couple to the, instruction, curriculum, community relationship with the community. We had a packed house for this room, but you could see those parents were very proud, the children were very proud, and we are very proud of them come before us and speak. So some of that stuff, you're right, getting the goals and stuff, and then some of the things we're already kind of doing, we just maybe need to make sure we follow them, stay on top of them, so. Okay, school board reports. Who has any school board reports? Yes, go ahead. Oh, you got one? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, we started negotiating with the personnel group, so that started this week. Food service and custodians continue.
And teachers have submitted their intent.
Oh, great. Awesome.
Anybody else?
I just have a couple in so just as a quick reminder, so first board meeting of the month is always updates from our schools. Second board meeting of the month is programmatic pieces, so you'll see that. I threw in the Wagner Wednesday will be at Prairie Island on November 29th. So we have the Prairie Island Indian Community Center set for that. It's at 5:30 p.m. So you're all welcome to attend. We did have a conversation with Southeast. They did ask us to be an off-campus command center in the event there is a crisis. And so that has been agreed upon. We did meet. So if at any time there's an elevated emergency, the conference room J108 will be utilized as a command center for Southeast. So that was just an agreement that was put together by all of the entities that make the decisions for that. And then last week, very briefly in the Wagner Friday updates, I did tell you that we have started we've added an agency called Creatively Focused that is actually doing a special education service audit on our programming. And so essentially it'll look at our student achievement, the providers of the services that are being rendered through GCD, our due process, fiscal management, so understanding our return on investment for the services we are purchasing. Our policies and our procedures, building a team, so ensuring that there's no stopgaps put in place for support for student services happening, and that we are actually collaborating across our partnerships. And then last but not least, just really looking at our 504s, our pre-referrals, our EL programming, and so on. And so on Friday, as teachers had a PD day, they had an optional listening session in the afternoon. We hosted 2, so we had a pretty good turnout, about 20 to 25 here at the high school. That was for middle and high school, and then at Burnside we had about 25 staff members. They also received a survey, as well as our district leadership team, teachers and principals, to just give feedback on some Likert scale questions and a comment area. And so essentially Creatively Focused will synthesize all that information. They're hoping to give us an overview by the week of December 11th. So we're hoping that all the entities will cooperate, collaborate, and then we're able to collect all the data that we need to see how effective our current programming and services are for special and related services in Red Wing.
Yes.
Would that be a topic for workshop in the future then, once you have the results of that?
So I'm hoping, when's our second board meeting in December? So it wouldn't be the first one, it will be done with then. But, cabinet will review the initial, feedback that they'll have for us, and then the 18th will have it more.
Okay. Any other committees? LMC met, we heard the recommendation today. Just for the board knows, we'll probably update this. Ms. Schoenfelder asked me, because the Health and Safety Committee has switched their meetings to Wednesdays, quarterly. She's not able to attend because of work commitment, and Ms. Buck has agreed to replace her as the regular, and then Ms. Schoenfelder at this point will stay as the alternate. So, and I've sent the dates, or the dates have been sent to Ms. Buck, so. With that, I also wish to, I talked at the beginning as an agenda item, formulating a finance committee. And my recommendation would be to have Ms. Ryder, the treasurer, Ms. Schoenfelder, and Ms. Bjornstedt, and I can serve as an alternate. We only need 3. That way they can schedule a lot easier with, like on a, let's just say a Thursday morning that they can meet, go over something that's coming to the board down the road for that finance part of it for now. Unless somebody has a dying need to be on that committee, we'll leave it that way, unless somebody wishes to be on that committee. So that's my recommendation. To start that with, Ms. Ryder will communicate and get the stuff out to the board members ahead of time, and they'll set a time to meet that works for all 3 of them, or 4 if there's 4. Anybody else wish to be on it?
Did you talk about frequency, or they're gonna?
Frequency will be prior to bringing it to a board meeting. I think, if it's monthly, quarterly, whatever works to start with. I think you talked maybe about the audit being the first thing that would be, presented to the committee, because that'll be the next thing coming to the school board. And then we'll look at in January how we want to do the, the committee structure as during the workshop time. So.
I would like it to be more than quarterly, like monthly.
You guys can have that conversation. What works for everybody's schedule, yes.
Do we need to make a motion?
We do need to make a motion to add that. So that's my recommendation.
Well, I would move to add a finance committee back onto our calendar, attended by the treasurer and Lisa Ryder and
Me and Leslie,
Ms. Bjornstedt.
Ms. Bjornstedt on a monthly basis
Or as needed.
or as needed?
As needed, as defined by the group. How's that
All
sound?
right.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ossendorf. Motion by Ms. Rowe, second by Ms. Ossendorf. Any discussion? Yes.
Can I just clarify the motion? Is it okay if we put treasurer, director of finance, and then an additional board member instead of naming?
Yes.
That's why I would.
Yeah, that's
your name.
No, I didn't think you did.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah. We're
I'm okay with my name being for that.
Will you? Any other good question? Any other discussion?
Yeah.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Administrative reports. Already did it? Okay. Consent agenda and donations. Anybody wish to pull anything off the consent agenda?
I'd like to pull number 3.
Number 3, okay. Anybody else have anything they'd like to push off? Number 3, new hires and reassignments. Anybody else? There are none, I'll entertain a motion to approve 1, 2, 4, and 5 if there's any data sharing agreements.
So moved.
Moved by who? Ms. Schoenfelder, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ossendorf. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Ms. Rowe.
I just would like some background information on the additional hours for the communications manager. that?
So she is 32 hours a week currently, but with the new MOUs and organization and coordination of outside agencies, we increased the hours also. She is supporting business with our finance as needed. As we just started transitioning into, it's not really a transition, it's just to help kind of with the overflow of other activities. More specifically, it's the MOUs and the outside agencies, because that's taken so much coordination.
Can you say that again? So MOUs, outside organizations, and assisting with
Business finance, just kind of the loose ends that we try to organize.
So, I think that we need to have a longer discussion about, maybe the communications manager job description, because that doesn't feel like a communications manager job per se. And so if the board was, I'd like to table that piece of number 3 and bring it back to the personnel committee. Anytime that we've changed a job description or added things to a job description in the past, we'd like to have a discussion at the personnel committee meeting and then bring it back to the full board for approval on that.
Supposed to.
And then that's one of the pieces that we're missing in the
So-
personnel committee.
Yeah, and I guess that was my question about that too, that I don't know who has the ability to change a position or add FTE, which adds, I would assume, like salary or, who gives that approval? I thought it comes to the board, but maybe I'm wrong, so I was just looking for clarification around that.
It is coming to the board and yeah.
So what's you have a motion?
I'm making a motion to table the communications manager additional hours at this time to bring back to the personnel committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Motion by Ms. Rose, second by Ms. Schoenfelder. Table discussion. Table motion is not debatable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll bring it back to the personnel committee, bring it back to the next future meeting. Okay. Now, motion to, on the rest of number 3 then.
I have a question.
Yes,
Do I reserve because Tony Zimmerman is my sister?
Tony is your sister?
Yes.
Okay. You can just, you can abstain. You can abstain. That'd be fine. Is there a motion on the remaining 3, number 3, under the new hires and reassignments?
So
Moved by Ms. Rose, is there a second?
second.
Second by Ms. Schoenfelder. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Aye.
I
There we
abstain.
go. Very good. Donations and grants.
All right.
Let me get it pulled up here. Go ahead, Superintendent.
All right, we have several donations in the amount of $250 from Unleashed Inc. for Women's Network. And it looks like Nancy, is it Keys or Keys? Has a couple of donations, $50 for Aim to Achieve Adults with Disabilities Program, and then also supplies for craft valued at $107. We had an anonymous donation for $150 for Aim to Achieve Adults with Disabilities Programs, and maybe there's multiple anonymous for $285 memorial donation in memory of
Judy Grace.
Judy Grace.
She was a teacher here.
Thank you for the donations.
Very good. Yeah, thank you very much for the generous donations. Here, anybody wish to,
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution.
thank you, Ms. Ossendorf. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Bjornsted. Roll call vote. Ms. Ossendorf?
Aye.
Ms. Tiff?
Aye.
Ms. Buck?
I
Ms. Schoenfelder?
Aye.
Ms. Bjornsted?
Aye.
Ms. Roll?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you very much for the generous donations. MSBA October model policy updates.
So the 5 updates that you have here are the standard red line MSBA recommendations for 413, 416, 506, and 506 complaint form, and then 507 corporal punishment and criminal restraint.
it's just, these are just
Standard.
modification, just one reading. So is there a motion to approve based on MSBA's recommendation?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Schoenfelder, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ossendorf. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. First reading of policy 606.5, library materials.
So this has just recently been released as either in addition to our policy 606, which actually reviews our curriculum and textbooks. The opportunity for the public to review them and then all the definitions related to it. But this specific read is actually for an extension to actually look at library materials. So the material that are selected or collective groups of materials that are placed into our library. Many different media types could be there. I did bring Megla Hammer, so she is our media specialist
Come on up, Meg.
extraordinaire. Should you have any specific questions on 606 and 606.5?
You've been patiently waiting in the back of the room there.
It's been such a fun meeting.
Hello, man. So this is the first reading, so we'll have to go through 3 readings. So anything you'd like to add to this?
Well, a lot of what is in here, we sort of went over last spring when we came up with the reconsideration form. And then I had the procedure that I go through, and a lot of that is already in here. And
Okay. Good. Well, thank you for coming.
Sure.
Any questions or anything anybody wants to do? So this will be the first reading.
There is an option to combine this with the current living 606 policy that we have, or have it as a separate policy as well. So just be thinking about that. So as I talk to Meg and we talk about 606 and what this looks like, there may be some redundancy. We could blend them together. We don't have to. So I just want you to have that option as you're reading and comparing the two. So,
Okay. All righty, this is the first reading, no actions needed at this time. We'll come back on the second reading. That was pretty easy, wasn't it?
Yeah. Should have had you at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
that's okay.
Say hi to Neil.
I will.
Have a good night. Thank you. MOU, secretary vacation accrual and usage. And this did get brought up at the personnel committee. It was discussed by Superintendent Wagner.
yeah, so
Go ahead.
we have an administrative assistant that currently, under the current contract language, cannot access any vacation time until they have worked an entire 12 months. And so this came forward as an MOU to be able to offer that administrative assistant access to vacation time as it's friendly or earned, as opposed to waiting to the 12 months. So that's really kind of in a nutshell what we're hoping to move forward with. At this time, it is language that is being entertained in some of our support personnel negotiations as well. So.
Okay,
And just for clarification, our other groups get their vacation like at the front end, right?
the motion, or what does the board wish to do?
I will make a motion to approve the MOU for secretary vacation accrual and usage as presented.
Okay, motion by Ms. Tiff, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ossendorf. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Upcoming meeting, future topics, we have Friday, as Ms. Schoenfelder mentioned, the veterans program at the high school here. And there's something at middle school too, I believe.
There's a Veterans Day.
Veterans Day.
For students, I believe.
We attended, I know, Ms. Tiff, Ms. Rowe and I were here, I think Ms. Bjornstedt was there last year. Weren't you there at the Veterans Day? You weren't on the board,
I wasn't on the board, no, I
but
was.
you were there.
It was a Friday,
Yeah,
so.
I think you were.
Scram
How's that?
It's great.
It was a wonderful day, and it's a fun day here. The veterans really like it, and students and everybody, so if you can be there, I know I'll be there, so we might want to just advertise, it might be a quorum.
We already did.
Okay, great, so it's fun to see some of those guys and gals, because you know them over the years, so. Anything else coming up? We'll be meeting on the 20th, I believe. Today's the 6th, the 20th.
So you will be getting an email with possibly table host for the World Cafe. So we will also, if all of you want to attend, we will,
What was that?
for the World Cafe.
Oh, yeah.
The table host does not mean you come and decorate the table, it will already be done. It just means that you are collecting feedback from the questions of the participants at your table.
I'm planning on being there, so if you need help, I'm happy to help.
You'll all be signing up because you need a training on how to be a table host, so
Okay.
that will happen on the 20th.
How many people are you anticipating?
I'm gonna volunteer Jim to do that.
I dream big. I anticipate this first one won't be as big as our February one because people aren't sure what to
What it
expect.
is.
I would love 100 people that aren't table hosts.
I'll be there.
Make me a flyer and I'll get it out for you.
All right, I
But I
like
have
that.
a pretty well-attended events if you guys.
Yes.
Great.
I'll get you information, I'll make you flyers if you guys hand them out. Or you give me the flyers.
No, I'm
I
good.
just think it would be important, for the district to bring everybody together and just give that space locally, but above and beyond what a Wagner Wednesday is, it's strategic, so.
And what kind of food specifically are we
Well,
talking
you were nominated for the, food committee,
Perfect.
so you and I can decide what if you want, because we have awesome nutrition services that will help us, so.
Well, I would just say it was a wonderful meeting tonight with the students from middle school coming with their STEM projects. It was the noise out in the hallway, you could tell the excitement and all that, and then it just like, boom, hit a wall when they walked into the room. But it was fun to have them here, their parents and family members, so. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So, motion by Ms. Ossendorf, there's a second, I'll second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. We are adjourned.
We're not adjourned to you, the gal.